Hi guys! So today I want to talk about my first pregnancy and my first pregnancy journey and the labor, delivery, and all of that story. And please excuse me because that happened like literally 10 years ago. So my memory is kind of hazy since then. So I will do my best to get as many details as I can. So as I mentioned in the earlier video, about how I sort of got pregnant with my first. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it down below so you can go ahead and watch that as well. So basically, I had the inconsistent cycles and all of that. So I was in India at this time. I had been married for a couple of months, almost a year. So my mother-in-law took me to an herbalist. So while I went to the herbalist and basically I told him about my inconsistent cycles, and he gave me some herbal medications and said to give those a try, and that should really help regulate my cycles. So I was on that medication for about 2 months, and I will not be able to tell you which medicines they were or what they were for. I was very young and naive, and so I don't really remember. But I basically was on it for about 2 months, and during those 2 months, I had my first cycle on I started my first cycle on February 6th. And so February 6th, I had my first cycle, and fast forward to March 16th, and I had not been feeling very well. I was feeling very nauseous. I was feeling not well. And so I was like, okay, well, let me try and take a pregnancy test. And my mother-in-law had kind of picked up on my symptoms and also had asked about it too. So I decided to take a test, and it was positive. So, and the reason why I think I got pregnant so easily my very first time, as I mentioned in my previous video, is I was very young. I was a lot smaller, and I think just the herbal medicine was enough to help my follicles grow. So now, fast forward to, I was about 4 months along, and that's when my husband got his visa. And so we flew out to the US together. And at the time, just trying to figure our life out, we stayed at my parents' house. And so that whole pregnancy was, with my mom, which was great because she took like tons of care of me. And also that pregnancy was easy breezy. I literally had some morning sickness for about 2 weeks in my first trimester, and that was it. After that, like, I would sit there and be like, am I really even pregnant? Like, I don't feel pregnant. My second trimester came along, and I did get very bad headaches, almost migraines, and I honestly didn't even start showing until about 6 or 7 months, and that's when people also would start noticing, strangers and asking me and stuff. But before that, I didn't. And with the first pregnancies, you're so naive, and you just don't know much. You just go to your doctor's appointment. So it was very smooth sailing, I would say, minus the headaches. And even my third trimester was easy breezy. I never got super uncomfortable or anything because I didn't get very, very big, And fast forward, the labor story kind of, it was Halloween, and I remember I still have about 2 weeks left of the 38 weeks, and a few days after that, it was a Thursday, I remember. My husband used to work a night shift at that time, so I remember getting up to use the restroom, and I saw like liquidy stuff, TMI, and I thought it was discharge. So I had asked my mom about it, and then one of our really good neighbors, a good friend of ours, she was also a nurse, and so I decided to ask her, and she said, yeah, that was very normal to have discharge in late pregnancy and stuff. So I said, okay, well, it's just discharge, right? So then as the day went on, it kind of got more, but I still kind of was very confused because I didn't want to be that patient who went to the hospital and it was nothing and got sent home. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to continue to keep an eye on it. So then Friday night comes along, and as I'm waking up to use the restroom, it's getting more and more. And so Now I know, okay, this is not right. But of course, instead of waking up my mom or anything, I was like, okay, when my husband gets back from work in the morning, we'll wait until the clinic opens and we'll call the doctor. And that's exactly what we did. My husband got home around 7:30, and I told him, and I said, okay, well, the clinic opens at 9, so we'll call. So just, very smoothly, like nothing. And we called the doctor's office, told him what was going on. She said, okay, come in as soon as possible. So we drove down to the doctor's office, and she checked me, and she said, your water's been broken. And then she's also Indian like I am, so she kind of, was just like, I told you, if your water breaks, then you need to go into the hospital right away. Like, the baby could get an infection. You've been leaking for 2 days. And I was just like, my bad. Like, I didn't know. And I thought when a water breaks, it's like a burst of water. I didn't realize it could just be like this as well. So that's why I didn't think that that's what it was. So now she's saying, and I'm 10 days away from my due date. Yes, 10 days away. So at this point, she said, go straight to the hospital, get yourself checked in, and they'll check you out and get you started. So I said, okay, fine. So go pick up my mom and all our stuff. We go to the hospital, get checked in, and my water had been broken, but I was not, I think they said I was 2 centimeters dilated, but I wasn't having consistent contractions or anything like that. So they did put me on, and my mind just went blank. So the medicine that helps you, starts your contraction. So they gave me that, and they said, okay, let's see how it goes from here. So the contractions did start picking up. I remember I got to about a 4, and it wasn't going as fast as they wanted it to. So they did give me some more of the medicine, and then I got to about a 6, and I remember I didn't want to do the epidural or anything. I was going to try to shoot it for as natural as possible. But at this point, I was in so much pain, and the nurses kept saying, like, honey, you don't have to deal with this. You can get the epidural. So at this point, I had been laboring all day. So I said, okay, I'll take the epidural. So took the epidural, felt so much better, went to sleep, and at this point, it's like almost 9 p.m. So then the nurse comes in and checks again, and I was still at 6, and I had not progressed whatsoever. So at this point, the doctor comes in. She said my water had been broken for way too long, and I was starting to get a fever and very shiverish. She said that the baby could get an infection, and we need to get the baby out. So she said that C-section is what we're going to have to do. So after hearing that, I was so sad. And at this point, now 10 years later, I feel like all my children had been from C-section. I think it's just as, it's okay. It's okay if you have a C-section. But at that point, I was just so broken. I was said, I didn't want a C-section. I was scared because it was surgery, and I was very young. I was 20 and 21. So my mom was crying and I was crying, and the nurse, when she came to prep and stuff, they, told my husband, "Are you coming in?" And he was scared, and he didn't know what to expect, so he was just like, no, like, he kind of freaked out. So then the nurse was like, okay, well, your mom can go. So my mom came with me for my first, and I remember I did feel a little nauseous and shivering and stuff, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. But I do remember my anesthesiologist. He was very rude, and I don't know if it was because I looked like such a young mom, because although I was 21, I probably looked like I was 17, 18. And I did have my mom with me, so I wasn't sure, but he was kind of rude, I remember. So long story short, they got the baby out, and it was my son Asaad. And I remember my first thought seeing him was, oh my God, he looks just like my husband. And that's what my mom said. And it was just very exciting time. And I remember asking the anesthesiologist, I said, how much more time? Because I just wanted to hold my baby. And he was like, I said 10 minutes, didn't I? Has it been 10 minutes? And I said, no. So then after that, I didn't say anything. And I will be honest, though, with everything that had just happened, everything going on, I felt like I didn't connect with the baby instantly right away. It was just all very new and confusing, and my body just went through so much. But obviously, as time went forward, that wasn't an issue anymore. So I was in the hospital for about 3 days, and my mom stayed with me on and off. My husband stayed with me on and off. So, and I recovered very, very quickly. And by the time we got home, I was already fine. My incision had already, for the most part, healed, and I was walking around. And and the hardest part for me was my husband worked night shift, and Asaad kept waking up and crying, and I was trying to breastfeed, and I really didn't know what I was doing, and that was very hard for me. But my mom was there, and she helped me out as much as she could. She cooked for us, she fed me, so that was very, very helpful. So as soon as my son turned about 6 weeks old, my mom went to India to be with my dad because he was working on some projects over there. And so my journey with breastfeeding, I, again, very new mom with very little information. So I did try to breastfeed him, but I had flattened nipples and I had to use a shield, and the shield would get wet and come off, and it just, nothing. And he was so tiny too. He was 5 pounds, 14 ounces, and he was only 18 and a half, no, only 18 inches long. And then he had gotten some jaundice, so he lost like 10% of his weight. So he was itty bitty tiny. So just trying to breastfeed him and, not understanding. And we were doing both since he did have jaundice, also giving him formula. And then I would try to pump because the nurses at the hospital had told me to pump as much as I could. So every time I would pump, I would get very little milk, like barely 2 ounces. And at that time, to me, I felt like, okay, that's all my baby's getting, but then he's drinking so much more formula, so I'm obviously not making enough. So this battle went on until he was about, I want to say, 2 months old. And at that point, my mom had already left, and I said, you know what, I can't do this. And that's when I stopped breastfeeding him, and he, from then on, was exclusively bottle fed, which is fine because he is just amazing. And what can I say? And he is 9 years old now, and he will be 10. His birthday is November 3rd. He was born in 2007, and he is just the smartest, most um, loving, caring, nurturing kid that you could just ask for. And he is the best big brother ever. And I think having him at such a young age actually helped us grow. And he grew up with us, basically. So him and us, me and my husband, like, it was just the three of us, for the longest time. And so we have a very special relationship. And he also has some videos that he's made for YouTube, so I'll go ahead and link those down below as well, so you can check this out and check out how adorable he is. We haven't made any new videos recently, but he does want to get back into that, so hopefully we'll do that for him as well. I really hope I didn't leave anything out. I know it was a little kind of all over the place. I must have left some stuff out, but basically that's it. That was my pregnancy and delivery and postpartum with my first. And I will make a whole separate video about this, that I did have postpartum depression after him, so that'll be a whole separate video, so you can look forward to that. And I will be making more videos coming up talking about my other children and how we conceived and delivered with them and everything. So have a look out for those, and subscribe if you haven't, so you can keep up with my crazy life. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.